Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. I'm your host, Lynell Gordon, and I'm really excited today, as I usually am, but I've got somebody really remarkable today. He's an expert in scaling his business. He's had explosive growth. He grew up to 300 properties in 3 years. The other thing I'm really impressed about is he has 4.8 star reviews on Google. And I'm serious, they reply like within the same day or within a very short time. He is known in the industry for being really easy to work with. His vendors love him. And he's just really a smart businessman. Welcome, Riley Goldman. I'm really happy to have you today.
Yeah, you definitely overdid it for me.
No, I did. It's so funny. People don't recognize what other people see in them in the industry. And you have Beachside Vacation Rentals in Cocoa Beach, Florida, which is one of my favorite places. I love Cocoa Beach. I lived there when I was young and playing. Place to play.
Yeah, I didn't know that because I'm born and raised Cocoa Beach. That it seems like such a small town, and then I'll be like randomly somewhere. I'm like, oh, I used to spend all my summers there. And it's just crazy. It's like a lot bigger, more known than I thought it was, especially as I've grown. Yeah, it's a cool little beach town for sure.
It's really like a tiny town that's a big town. Yeah, so let's talk for just a minute about growth. If you had advice to give to property managers who are looking to grow their company, you've had a lot of growth in 3 years, and you've already said you're good in sales. Tell me, what advice would you give to property managers who want to grow their company?
That's such a big topic, and I could totally talk on it forever. I think the best thing, and we've spent virtually $0 on advertising. We actually just spent our first $500 on advertising, sending out postcards about a month ago. I would just say networking is so key to growing. And you don't realize how valuable your network is. Like people talk about, oh man, ROI. The amount of ROI and networking, it's so hard to like put a pinpoint on, but it's so valuable. And it's just so underappreciated. And I guess my big point, and the one thing that I feel like I do really differently when it comes to networking is I try to go in expecting nothing in return. Hey, if I take a 45-minute phone call with a realtor, I'm not like in the back of my mind saying, oh man, I'm hoping she's going to send me a lead or something. Hey, I have no problem helping someone out. I spent 45 minutes with this person essentially being their realtor the other day, telling them what they should look for, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I don't even know if I'm like, she goes, I'm only going to rent it 3 months a year. And I'm like, look, I'm just being honest. It's not the amount of like, for me to rent it for 3 months, it's just, it doesn't really work in our system. I spent 45 minutes talking to her, getting her recommendations. And I'm probably never going to talk to that person again. A day later, I get a call from them and said, hey, my friend's buying too, but she only is going to use it 1 month and she wants to buy in the same complex. So it's just, if I didn't spend that time to invest in that, I would have never gotten that lead. So I guess my biggest thing is like network, but don't just network to like put your name out there. Network to help people, because people help out the people who help people. Like they want to help out genuinely, people who show genuine interest in them. So I guess like my biggest one-off advice, if I could give it to anyone, is when you network, don't just say, oh man, I want to talk to this one guy and I'm at this conference, I need to talk to this one person. No, you have no idea who you're going to talk to and what connections they have or how they might impact your life. So go in open-minded and don't have an agenda in mind, just see where it goes. And the world has this amazing way of like making things work out on itself. And yeah, that's probably like the summary of like my biggest advice I can give when it comes to growing your company is just grow your network and your company will grow with it.
Cultivating relationships with people. You're not just advising them, you're actually creating strong relationships. And you're known for creating strong relationships with your guests as well, because I've read the reviews. You have very high reviews and you have a bunch of reviews. Tell me how you managed that. How are you managing that?
Yeah, it originally just started off. We were doing just, hey, it really means a lot if you leave a review, it goes world away. We're going more and more on and on of like, hey, how do we continue to grow our reviews? It makes such a difference when you're booking. It gives a sense of comfort, it gives trust, etc. So First was this outreaching. Recently, what's really exploded us on the amount of reviews we're getting, we started working with this company called SuiteOp, which is a guest experience app. And long story short, you can use SuiteOp to give a checkout review. And in that checkout review, it automatically links with Google. Essentially, before someone would have to go on to Google and do this, they're checking out, they're giving a review right when they check out, and they give their feedback, et cetera. And we're able to automatically link that with Google. So it's super, super valuable. Ever since we've been live with them since, I think, May, and we've added about 300 reviews into Google. And the newest thing that we just started, we just partnered with basically like an environmental company in Florida, basically the St. John's River, to keep our river, they call it the Indian River, healthy. So every 5-star review we get, we're also telling all of our guests that we're going to donate $1 for every 5-star, whether it's Airbnb, and if they leave it on multiple sites, Airbnb, VRBO, and they do it on Google, and they do it on TripAdvisor, we're going to donate $1 to the Indian River Lagoon. And we have over 1,000 guests stay with us each month. Hey, we could be donating $1,000 every single month to the Indian River. And I always say the healthier the lagoon is. I'm a very environmental guy. I live on the river. I love my river, et cetera. So being able to give back, and I think people like giving back. So there's people who weren't going to leave a review are going to leave a review because we're donating to a good cause, right?
Man, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I stole that idea from, I'm not going to lie, a little bit different, but I stole the idea from Dennis from Cassiola. What he does is they plant a tree for every 5-star review they get. I want to do it more personal to like our area. So that's why we decided to do it with the Indian River again.
I love Indian River. That's such an excellent idea. It really is. You mentioned we were talking about AI, and tell me a little bit about how you're using AI.
So, and you mentioned, hey, how are you responding on Google so fast? And we actually use AI to respond to all of our Google reviews. Basically, it curates the messaging, but not only is it creating value in that, we're using AI to give us feedback on the reviews. So before you get an Airbnb review and it says, hey, here's our suggestions for improvement. And sometimes it's like, hey, or we think you should have had more kitchenware, or we feel like the beach chair we use, you could use a new one, right? We're using AI to read the reviews, and then it creates job tasks for us for the unit improvements. For instance, someone says, hey, we think that you need more kitchen items in the suggested Airbnb review. It then creates a task for us, and we have to approve it, of course, but we approve the task to buy more kitchenware to improve so that negative review would never happen again. Before, you'd have to read it, then you'd have to like create a task on whether it's Breezeway or whatever software we're doing. We have it automatically integrate into our Slack, and we create a channel called Unit Improvement Opportunities. Hey, how do we do it? And then it's really nice because if we're ever talking with owners, we can chime into that review and be able to send the owner, hey, your carpet's a little needs to be replaced. Here's the review that popped up. And the thing is, it's instantaneous, right? You're not waiting days for your employee to notice it, or they're busy and they don't notice it, or they accidentally miss the review. This eliminates that opportunity. So that's one way, and it's been life-changing in terms of, we were just talking about our inspection reports. We do a monthly inspection. We used to go to a property and have to fix 4 or 5 things. And we're talking about how now, every time we do our monthly inspection, the things that are going wrong, we're getting shorter and shorter. And I really commend it to the unit improvement suggestions, because instead of waiting a month to find, it's being found instantaneous. That's how we're doing it using AI.
Are you using Zapier to connect the two?
Yes.
I thought you might be. I was like, holy cow. So somebody in office knows a little bit about programming.
That's all my partner. JJ King's we're co-founders. He is a smart one. I say I'm always the ugly face of the company, and then he's the smart one behind the company.
That's pretty fabulous. Guys, I think this is worth pursuing. This is a really cool thing, because on your reviews, one of the ones I read that was good, it was still a good review. They were like, we love the unit, but we wish there were more towels. And I thought, somebody really replied to that immediately. It was a really apropos, good reply too. And I was like, we need to find out what they're doing to make that great.
Yeah. But the thing is, what's really valuable is like AI has allowed us to really handle those improvement suggestions. That would be a very high demand, high touch point task that we're able to automate, which is really exciting. And I applaud my business partner has handled a lot of that stuff. He's a smart one, and I come up with an idea and then he makes it happen. So we work really well together.
That sounds like a great marriage made in heaven.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental software at streamlinevrs.com.
Now, you come from an investment and a finance background.
Yeah.
How has that background impacted your operations?
We're touching on this before we started talking, and you mentioned, you heard me once before say, hey, talking about finances is only sensitive if you make it sensitive. When you work in finance, and I worked as a financial advisor for affluent wealth, like 100 million. And I was like 22. I was a beach bum. I was walking into these interviews. I'm like, this guy's worth $1 billion. Why is he going to listen to me? Luckily, I don't know why they did, but they did. But long story short, what I learned about all affluent people was it was never sensitive talking about money. And I was just like, wow, that's really interesting that none of these people are like offended when you bring up finance. Yes, I'm working with them, but it was never a sensitive subject of, oh, I spent this year, blah, blah, blah. It was just very open, right? And my household, especially on my dad's side of the family, my dad was very transparent to me about money all growing up, right? He owned a few small businesses that he was always transparent, understanding labor costs, understanding expenses, understanding overhead, and the things that go into it. Tying that all into your question is like, how do I impact that into my business? Is a lot of times, a lot of property managers will tell people when they're in the sales process what they want to hear. You know what I mean? They'll say, yeah, you know what? They know that unit makes 50,000, but they're going to say, I think we could get to 65 if we have a really good year. I feel like I've never lost a client being this way, but I'm like, I'm just going to tell you, there's a 99% chance you will not hit that number. Like you are going to be at the 50 grand number, and I can almost guarantee it. And not just saying it, but having data to back it up. Because at the end of the day, you can be subjective about things, but when you get something thrown in your face and they're looking at data, like for instance, I was dealing with an owner a couple of days ago. He was saying, oh, my unit's underperforming. We need to raise prices, right? And then when I pulled in comps and he saw he was actually outperforming the market by literally 2x. And then on top of that, I pulled in comps that were, look, this place is way nicer than yours and you're making more money than it. And by the end of it, he was like, oh, I'm realizing it's just that time of year where we do have to lower pricing. So when you're talking with your owners or talking about potential owners with data, it removes emotion out of it. No one's going to lie and say, hey, here's my 2-bedroom apartment and here's 3 comps. Take the time, find 3 good comps that you're like, yeah, they're basically identical, and show them the data that those units are making so that they can be objective and say, you're right, that is like the same as mine. And if they want more money, we'll say, you want to be priced at this. Let's look at other units in the market that are at that price point. And they'll say, oh, that's oceanfront and mine's in the ghetto. I can't charge a say. So that's been like one very successful way. I feel like my finance background has really helped. And just being genuine and honest, like I've had lots of times where I'm working with a buyer that they're like, hey, I think I'm going to buy this. And I'm like, hey, you're going to lose a lot of money. Are you okay with that? And just be honest, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to lose that client in the future. If you sign them up and they don't make money and they're losing money and they're like, I can't pay my mortgage. It's like, you told me this was a good.
Now that I've gotten into something I'm really interested in that I've been looking into, there is a loan that you can get, and I don't remember the name of it.
DSCR.
Yes, I want you to discuss that. Tell me, is that real? Does it work? And explain to people what it is.
So what a DSCR loan is, debt service coverage ratio. Basically, whatever the debt service is, let's just say I'm just using very simple numbers, which is called $1,000 is the debt service. Then if the unit can make 1.2 times that amount, so if the unit brings in $1,200, you'll get the loan.
Okay, hang on. I just want to, let me preface this, guys. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. So a lot of us in business, when we go to get a loan on an investment property, they do all your personal finances and you're guaranteeing it and all this kind of stuff. But I understood from some classes that I did recently that what you could do is if you have a great credit rating, that you can actually take a loan out, not on your personal finances, but on the expected revenue of the property. So go ahead, finish, Riley. Sorry.
And you just sum that out perfectly. They are going based off of your credit and how much the property makes. And I've heard, I don't know how true, I haven't seen them close, but you can get like a 90% finance, 10% down on these loans. As long as theoretically the income will coverage be 1.2 times the debt coverage.
And that includes taxes, insurance, and payment.
Mortgage.
Mortgage.
That is the three big ones. Right?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't include maintenance. It doesn't include property management fees. If you're using a property manager, now you get rich by using debt, right? Like it's just a fact. Like you leverage, blah, blah, blah. It all depends on how risk averse you are. What's your financial position? Are you able to make the payments if the income isn't there? Now, I'll never tell someone what they should do or shouldn't do. DSCR loans will work great for some people who are super high risk averse, and they'll be terrible for people who are low risk averse. My biggest kind of advice when going down that route and deciding, hey, what am I going to do? Is always look at things from the worst case scenario perspective and say, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario, I don't hit my income. I need to pay $2,000 a month. Do I have $2,000 to cover the negative, right? Just looking from the negative, what's the worst case scenario? And then make your decisions from there. And I wish I had a magic formula that says, hey, this is the price you should buy something at, like what income it is. I personally believe that a true good deal is about 20% of the purchase price and income. So if you buy a property for $1 million, you want $200,000 of gross income a year. And it's depending on what taxes and insurance are for that area. But even with a property manager, you should be closing around a 12% cap rate. And 12 cap rate, I'm okay with getting a 7 cap. The reason why I'd be against the 7 cap is you're in the high risk business in short-term rentals. If you're at a 7 cap and you have a bad year, it turns into a 3 cap and now you're losing a lot of money. And let's be honest, like rentals right now, I do believe that the travel market's still good and healthy. I do believe that the supply of vacation rentals on the market are at an all-time high and continuing to grow. They watch the videos of the Bill Face saying, hey, buy a bunch of vacation rentals and you're going to be a billionaire next year. So
right.
I would just do math, figure it out, take your time, do due diligence, know your property really well, know the market really well, get advice from people who are going to tell you the real, not just what you want to hear. If they're just saying yes, they're probably not the person that's going to give you advice. Good people who are going to give you advice are going to say, let's go through the numbers. Have you done projections? Where'd you get your projections from? Did you find them off of AirDNA? AirDNA can be flawed because it factors in the same price, whether it's a pool, no pool, location, blah, blah, blah. They just take an average, right? That's not really a good one. Have you talked to any, why don't you go on Airbnb and start messaging hosts, asking them how much money they've made? Hey, you're looking at a similar property. If they don't mind giving you advice, people are really nice. A great Wedge network.
They really are. You're exactly right about that. I love that you said that because that's so true. You're just like, let's go to the source and find out. Find somebody with a similar property. Tell me this, how do you balance sales with your rentals and does one feed the other? There are companies that do both real estate sales and short-term rentals. They have a real estate group and then they have the short-term rental group. And some markets, the rentals feed the sales. In other words, it's your renters that are looking to buy the homes. On the other hand, there are other markets in the US where it's the real estate sales, the real estate people that are feeding the homes over to the short term.
Yeah. One thing I've made a vouch for ever since I started managing properties is I don't want to sell residential homes. I was like, I'm going to stay out of it. And it's for 3 reasons. 1, I'm not competition for all my referrals. I get so many realtor referrals, right? And I look at each contract as a value between $20,000 and $30,000, right? The average traded value for a contract last year was like $18,000. I'm a little bit on the bigger side, so I'm probably going to get around.
That was like 22.
Yeah. But let's just say between $20,000 and $30,000. That $300,000 home, my commission isn't worth what that contract's worth. I can only sell so many homes. So I've always said I'd rather get referrals rather than sales. So I refer out all business, and then, like I said, it comes back in, right? I will sell commercial, but it's way less competitive. For instance, I'm working on a big $40 million sale right now, but it includes a search off, a unit hotel, blah, blah, blah. I will get involved in those, but then I try to stay in my lane. It's easy. I'm one of those goldfish people that goes in a million different directions. I got to constantly remind myself, stay in your lane, stay focused, focus on what you're good at. And I view rentals as like a niche area in my market. Not many people do it. I'm thrilled with it. I have my lane and I stay in it. Sometimes I stop my lane and I quickly try to remind myself, stop, Riley, stay focused.
Riley, I want to tell you, I really have enjoyed our conversation. I've enjoyed this topic. I've enjoyed the fact that you are an expert on a bunch of different topics. And I thank you for taking the time to share. If people want to talk to you about anything that we've spoken about, can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really have many social medias. I do have a LinkedIn. I check it maybe once or twice a week, but LinkedIn would be the best way. Or if they wanted to email me at riley@beachsidevr.com, that's probably the best 2 ways, an email or a LinkedIn. And best thing, set up a call with me. I'm always glad to give 30 minutes to just network.
Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time and for being a part of the Vacation Rental Show. I really do appreciate it, Riley.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. And thank you so much for having me.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Streamlined. To find out more about how Streamlined can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinedvrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.